This next one comes from user ambivalent angelic. I don't even know what the rest of it is. Ex-Catholic, ex-Christian. Here we go. Is it worth telling my family I no longer believe? No, don't do what I did. No, I'm just kidding. I love this. I like this post because it made me really think about what I did.
Yeah.
Just thinking out loud. They say, I have struggled with belief for the last few years. For the last 3 years, I've been studying part-time at a super progressive Christian seminary. RIP. We're so sorry.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it has been my studies that have brought me out of religious belief. That's interesting, right? I'm going to go to school, and then going to school, you're like, I'm done with learning from what I just learned. What I just learned is evil. If I tell my family that I no longer believe, there will be some who will argue with me and tell me that I still believe. Interesting argument. There will be others who will tell me that they are praying for me to return to belief. My initial instinct is to not tell them. Should I tell them at all?
For the situation, man, it is such a struggle because it's a real situation. I really
pick your battles.
Pick your battles. I wonder how old you are.
That's a battle where I guarantee you, depending on how Christian your parents are, that's a battle where you've already lost the war.
Yeah.
My friend, you were born into that. Or, like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
well, it also depends. Like, do you still live with your parents? If you still live with your parents and you're like 15, 16, like you were,
like what
I would say wait until you're about 18, 19.
Yeah, wait till you're moved out.
Wait till you're like out.
Free,
because some parents would take such an offense to that they would ruin your relationship and then in the following years boot you out at the worst time possible.
Yeah.
So that you have to learn all of the hardest life lessons at the youngest time you should learn them.
Right.
And I'm not saying that's this person's family. That's why I'm more of like, I wonder what their age is. I wonder if they're not living with their parents. Because if you're not living with your parents, I'm like, yes,
all right,
be true to yourself and tell them.
So if you are living with your parents, your answer is,
I would say bite your tongue for a little bit.
Do you like walking on hot coals? You know?
Yeah.
Answer a question with a question.
Yeah.
That's what I'd say. If you're living with your parents, I'm going to ask you another question.
Yeah.
If you're not living with your parents,
tell them.
Pick your battles still.
I would personally say it's better to be real with your family than to not, even if it's going to choose.
So like no matter what it is, you would say honesty and openness, vulnerability.
From my family experience, I have known families that will legit never speak to their children again if they ever learned that. And that's another battle where it's
or vice versa. The kids end up not talking to their parents ever again because of it coming out.
So it's accepting the possibilities of those outcomes because religion takes over families, like it took over our family and this person's family too, where they're like, there's people in the family that will be like, nope, you still believe. I don't believe you.
Yeah.
And there's other ones that are like, well, I'm going to be praying for you that God speaks to you again and you come back. I get both worlds. There's no support there. You're not going to get support at all. So accepting that, understanding that going into it is one thing. And if you're questioning if you should tell them, my biggest question is, what's your living situation like? And
I think like there's no right or wrong answer here. Every situation needs to be specific to its situation, that family.
Yeah.
Every family deserves that. Every person, every kid that's like trying to deconstruct this and walk away from it and find joy or peace of mind. Like we don't know your parents. I know my parents, and it was aggressive.
Yeah.
It was a really aggressive experience. And I was 15 and I took them out to dinner to an Italian restaurant called Giorgio's. And I was very professional about it, very mature. It's like the same way my dad used to take premarital couples out for marriage counseling. He'd take them out to a nice restaurant. He would like command the conversation. I took my parents out to dinner and I was like, here's the deal, parents. I have something I need to tell you.
Yeah.
Go ahead and eat your spaghetti. It's going to be a long night.
Yeah.
I don't think I believe in God anymore. Or I think what I told them was,
I don't want to be a Christian.
I don't want to be a Christian anymore. And they knew that was, I think they knew the conversation was coming because I like could never hide anything. And it was a big deal. I made it such a big deal. I didn't know how to not make it a big deal.
How could it not be a big deal?
So much of my healing in life now, of course it's a big deal. So much of my healing in my life from my experiences way after that experience has been, what do I want to make a big deal?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if I don't make it a big deal, guess what? It's not going to become a big deal.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of other things in my life that deserve that weight.
Yeah.
And so at that time, there wasn't much else that was bigger. That was such a big deal. I felt like I couldn't move on as a person. I was so I was getting in trouble so much because I didn't know how to think. I was like, the only way I knew how to combat with my parents was to be like, now I'm an asshole. And they're like, you're grounded. And I was grounded all the time.
Yeah.
So it was like, I got to figure this out. I figured it out. I don't even want to be a Christian anymore. That's the problem. So I thought I was going to be free. I thought they were going to be like, legitimately was like thinking they're going to be like cool with it. Because they like want me to be like, they
make
don't
your
wanna,
own choices.
They don't want to deal with this. Yeah. They want me to like, I can find my own path. Oh, I was so mistaken. That's the risk you take is that if you're still under your parents' house and you're like 15 years old and you think that you have the independence to live your own free life, that might not be the case. And it might get way worse.
Yeah. Well, and if your goal is to stop going to church and stop studying the Bible and you are living under their roof, under their command, they might make you study the Bible 400 times more.
They might make you go to church
in
way more.
hopes that you forget that you don't want to believe anymore.
Yeah.
Which is wild because normally that will make you want
it's obviously
to hate
backfiring.
It more.
And, you know, I think that, it's pretty ridiculous that was an approach to try to keep me in check. But I think that that's also the same approach in our first post where it was like, oh, the reason why you're dealing with this disease or this trauma and this suffering is because you walked away from the faith and you did your parents wrong. I was told that. Not like diseases, but so many people in the church were like, you're going to be you're probably going to be the reason why things
don't work out for your father,
why your parents suffer because of you doing this. And it was just like, ouch, ooh, oh, I'm going to have to deal with that forever. No, not forever.
Well, it's wonderful thing to tell a 16-year-old, 15-year-old.
Yeah.
You're the reason why your parents are going to be depressed and hate their lives.
Right.
Because you decided to walk away. Because you shouldn't have choice or any agency. Because you were born into this family that knew the truth. And all the other 1,000 religions in the world didn't know the truth.
Right. Yeah. No. Yeah.
It's ridiculous, man. It's 100% a ridiculous thing to think.
It is. And for those going through it, and if you come across this podcast, I mean, if you see your own post and we're talking about your post here, like just realize that you are, if you're in your parents' house and you're like underage, like unfortunately, like there's not much you can do besides
and in my
get through that.
In
time.
my experience, is just get through that time first. You can't, as much as you feel like you have the agency to move out at 15 and 16 and that you can take control of your life. Sadly, I'm so sorry, you just don't.
What's amazing is that there's the internet now. I didn't have Reddit back then.
Yeah,
like whoever this person is posting, I think that's what's amazing.
It is.
And like we're taking that post that they're like, I don't want my parents, I don't know if it's good that my parents will see this. Regardless, I need support. So this is anonymous. That anonymous person will watch this maybe. And this is how much we believe it's a big fucking deal.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you're deciding to pull out of the Christian faith and you're freaking out and you don't know what else to do because you're stuck at your parents' house and they're just drilling it down you, hold fast, my friend.
Yes.
Keep pushing through. You're not alone.
Yeah.
First comment here from Captain Call. Love that. That's better names here. Captain Call, ex-Presbyterian, says, I deconverted in February and told my dad earlier last month. I waited a bit because I wanted to be sure of my decision before I caused him any pain. That's a lot already.
Yeah.
He's a devout evangelical, and after I told him, he was distraught and started crying really bitterly. Mm-hmm. It was hard to watch, but I felt that it was better that he know who I am than to live a lie. He's the only one in my family I've told so far, but besides my sister, none of them are as religious as him, so it shouldn't be too difficult. If the topic of faith never really comes up in conversation with your family, then I wouldn't bother to say anything unless they ask. I only told my dad because he's always bringing up God and the Bible in conversation, and eventually I had enough.
Mm. Yeah, it's a family to family basis, man. And there's some parents that are incredibly extreme.
Yeah, but I think it's like devout evangelical, right? As our parents.
Yeah. I think evangelical is the word. If you come from an evangelical family, then it's just a little different.
And if there's one thing, that me and Zach, I'm speaking for you here. No, but I just know because we say it so much on this cast, like the whole goal is to heal. Mm. And if you've or if you're going through active trauma in that Christian evangelical faith because of your parents, and you're feeling traumatized and you're feeling like you're suffering, then like it's really hard to heal while you're actively being like going through that trauma. And so you have to like figure out what you're going through and accept it and learn what it is so that you can like rise above it when the time comes, or, you know, by learning about it. But like having, you know, like flipping the narrative, like in Christianity, they're always like God's grace, grace of God, right? So like always that. If you can learn how to have grace for your own parents who are the evangelical devout Christians, like it's not about accepting you don't have to accept their beliefs. You don't have to accept anything they're doing, but it's more of like, I recognize that you're brainwashed and you're stuck in a cult and I am breaking free. Mm-hmm. If you're able to hold that and actually recognize that as being part of this, you might have a little more space for the people in your family besides canceling them. Not saying that that's the right approach. I think canceling is fine. I think it's absolutely important. But like these situations are sticky. Yeah. So this person here, knowing that, like my father is a devout evangelical Christian and I know I'm going to break their hearts. That there was a part of me that knew I was going to break my parents' heart. Yeah. I didn't know that they weren't going to let me think for myself, but I knew it was going to hurt. That's why I took them out to dinner. That's why I tried to do it as professionally and softly as possible. And they cried a lot after it.
That's because we knew that our life was the church and that you were saying you didn't want to live that life anymore. So it's basically taking every second you've ever breathed with your family on what you're supposed to be in this existence and saying you don't want to be that anymore. So it's just so much weight for them. Yeah. And it's such a weight off your shoulders as a young child to be like, I need to tell you my truth. Absolutely. And they're like, you shouldn't have told us your truth.
Your truth has broken me.
Yeah, you've just broken my heart.
Then it's like, well, this is worse.
Yeah.
Well, this is way worse.
If I would have known this would have gone this way, I probably wouldn't have told you anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which isn't a good place to be as a child ever.
Not until you're in a more, I thought I was so grown up and I mean, you got to get out. You got to break free. Mm-hmm. When you recognize a cult, if you're a kid and you're 15 years old and your parents are in their 40s and you're like, do you guys know that that you might be stuck in a cult? And they're like, pray for him. You're like, no. And it's like a nightmare.
Yeah.
Like you think you found the answer because you did, but they're like, no, you're not. That's not the answer. That's why we found our answer, because your answer is not right. Yeah. I feel for this person, you know, like they tiptoed, you know, and then they hurt their dad by just being alive. Yeah. Hey, I'm alive. And I know that hurts you. I am so sorry. It's like, yeah, that's part of this.
It's also
not everyone deals with that.
It's also good to have these parents questioning what they believe, because what they believe is that now your son's going to burn forever. Your son's going to burn forever now.
I think most parents don't like to believe that, so they just skip around it. And they're like, who am I to judge? You'll face God in heaven and be judged then.
That's the most important part of the cult's belief, is that everyone that doesn't believe it is burning for eternity, way more than this life is ever going to be. Eternity. You're going to be burning in pain and agony and hatred and horrible. And it's like, if that is the truth and that's what you believe, and you want to believe it with your whole life, that that's the God of love that created this life, the God of love, then tell your parents so they question if that's true, because I can't believe that's true.
Right.
I can't.
I have a question for you. Mm-hmm. If I just don't believe forever and do whatever I want, and then right before my last breath, I'm like,
fine, I'll give my life to Christ.
You give my life to Christ. Do you go to heaven?
In the words of the Bible, you do.
Well, then cheat code, hack everybody.
Yeah.
Live your dreams.
Yeah.
And then right before you pass out, accept that shit.
If you just want to, play it safe.
Just play it safe. Yeah. Yeah. I think most people do. They're like,
all right, if you're real, take me now.
Yeah. Yeah, because what's the worst that's going to happen? You're going to die and it's not real. And it's like, well, at least I tried at the end.
They blink and they're roly-poly. They're like, shit, I knew it wasn't real. Yeah. This is going to be a quick life.
Or God is punishing them and now you're roly-poly.
Someone made a really good comment that like you come back as your pets. So however you treated your pet is how you're going to be treated in your next life. It's like, man. Well, overall pretty good.
Yeah, overall would love that life.
Overall pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay, not bad.
Yeah.
I learned.
Learned.
I've become a better pet owner the older I've gotten.
Yeah.
Next comment real quick, finishing up this post. Radiant Elk 1258 says, I never made a formal announcement. The people who are close to me know because it came up naturally. Other people might know through gossip, but it doesn't usually come up. It did feel scary to let people know even when it came up naturally. I didn't know how they would react. Usually they were sad and worried for me, which is hard to deal with. Right, as we were just talking about. But it doesn't mean that I'm wrong or have done anything wrong. Absolutely. You can decide to let people know or not. It's your call and depends on a lot of things. We agree. Just know that you don't owe anyone an explanation. Not everyone will be able to respond well or with compassion. They might try to dump their fears onto you. They might get angry, sad, coercive, manipulative. That doesn't say anything about you. It says a lot about them. I love this part. Good luck.
Yeah.
Because in Christians, they're like, there's such a thing as luck. It's just Jesus and God.
Yeah.
They're like, good luck. May the luck be ever in your favor, deconstructing your religious trauma.
Yeah.
I feel like everything they said in this post is what we just talked about, right? It's exactly, there's a lot of factors here. I agree so much with the other comment from Captain Call, ringing back what they say, not to live a life of a lie. Maybe it's better to be truthful. I agree with them too.
Again, depends on how old you are.
And I think, yeah, there's a lot of factors here. We're so sorry that it's so traumatic. That's why we've been doing this for over a year. Me and Zach really believe that this podcast and what we're talking about matters. And we believe a lot more of the internet and these conversations will become more a part of the algorithm. We hope you see this.
Yeah.
Because you're not alone.
Yeah.
And if you have questions, hit us up.
Hit us up.
Come get interviewed.
Come get interviewed.